My grandfather on my mother's side was a businessman named John Miller. He founded the brick company in 1892. When I was a little boy, the brick plant burned in 1939, and I remember going over. It was a snowy day, and Dad took my brother Scotty and I over to the ruins of the thing. It wasn't worth rebuilding. Family members just wanted to sell the land and forget it. And my dad said, no, we don't want to sell this land. This land is going to be good sometime. And he was right. And so they made him president of the company.
You could say, I suppose, that it was somewhat fortuitous that there was a fire at the brick company. The land where the brick company had been became, within the next decade or two, extraordinarily valuable. So there was a huge gap there where the whole thing could have been lost. And there was some pressure, I'm told, to sell the land to other business enterprises. And my grandfather and Dad, the one mantra that I've always been told is never sell the land from going with the wind. And for the most part, we've stayed true to that, not in all respects. So I may be out of the will for all I know.
The most important lesson, I think, that I learned from my dad in my apprenticeship years with him was the value of land. And he read Gone with the Wind when it came out in the late 30s. And Scarlett O'Hara's father admonished her, never sell the land, Scarlett, never sell the land. I went to my dad one day and said, we've got some apartment zoned ground over here. What would it take to build an apartment? He said, well, that's a big job. You got to get a plan. Architect does that. You got to get financing. Insurance companies are a good source of that kind of financing. And you put a lot at risk. But he said, if you think we could do it, let's go. So I went to 4 insurance companies, and they all turned it down because it was next to a county playground where they had ball fields and tennis courts. And I went to this mutual benefit insurance company and said, before we get into this project, this land is adjacent to a county playground. You got all these amenities available at no cost. And they took the deal. And we built Abingdon House, which is an 82 unit apartment. We spent about $750,000 building that structure. And the land we figured was worth about $250,000. So when I try to visualize what is $1 million, I look at that building in my head. That's $1 million. Now they talk about billions. That would be 1,000 Abingdon houses. And now they're talking about trillions, and I have no idea what that is. And I don't think anybody in Congress does either. So. Rome wasn't built in a day, nor was Crystal City, but it got built. It's an amazing project, and it's amazing to think that I had a hand in parts of it. Bob and I used to meet regularly and discuss the next phase of the project. It was always exciting, and he had great vision, but he was willing to listen to my ideas too, which was nice. But it would not have gotten built the way it is had it not been for Bob Smith. His was the driving force. as the old saying goes, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Bob was leading, and I came along for the ride.
The way you're successful in creating something, and you know it's going to be successful, is when you can see it before it's there. And it's kind of a, look at it as a gift. And Bob Smith clearly had this for Crystal City, so he was able to see on the banks of the Potomac River in a wasteland of railroad yards and broken down buildings and unreclaimed clay mines, buildings. And so he had been to Florida and he had seen an apartment building called Crystal House in Florida. So he built, at great peril, Crystal House, put the chandelier in it. It was filled almost from the day that he built it. Crystal City evolves one building after the other. So while Bob would chuckle at the fact that he was this incredible visionary who had seen this incredible project before it was ever built, but in the beginning what he saw was one apartment building. So I guess what we can take away from that is that all things start with one idea, and if it's the right idea, many things can grow from that. And so Crystal City evolved in that way.
He knew that waterfront property was a limited resource. You couldn't manufacture more waterfront land. So although he didn't have a plan, a golf course plan or a resort plan for the property at that time, he knew that it would be incredibly valuable. If you looked at this property today in 2012, you would not believe that you could buy it for $1 million in 1971. So the company bought a farm. We worked building groins to stop the sea erosion out there. I helped my father throw rocks. We managed the property. It's been a wonderful education knowing this land and learning some more of the Eastern Shore and the Chesapeake Bay than Westerners really know. Most people know Annapolis, and sometimes they get to know Ocean City and Bethany Beach. This is a whole different part of Maryland that is really very special.
Amongst the many projects that I've been involved with the brick company, probably the most interesting has been the development of my Lord's Gift farm. Once you saw it, you could not help but fall in love. It had 2.5 miles of shoreline on the Chester River, a beautiful spot, and a wonderful history about Henry de Courcy putting his big fat thumb down and drawing a circle around it, and the name of my Lord's Gift, because Lord Baltimore had given it to him, had stuck all these years. There's an historical marker at the entrance to the farm, and it tells that story briefly. I looked it over and walked the whole thing and drove where we could, and decided this was something we ought to try to buy. Before we made the final decision to build the golf course, I had seen a movie with Kevin Costner, and somebody told him, if you build it, they will come. That was a stadium, and I called the Bay Bridge Authority, and they said, we have about 19 million cars a year going over our bridge, and I figured that was equivalent to, if you build it, they will come. And they did, and they have come. While the golf course was under construction, we had to do a lot of digging, and we found the bones of the early settlers.
It was an archaeological site with all of the wonderful leftover bits. Because of that, there was some opposition to our project. As soon as I heard that this was going to be an obstacle for us, I took a proactive stance and called the Maryland Historic Trust and asked them who they suggested we should contact to do a survey of archaeological significance on the entire to-be-developed portion of the golf course, which at that time was, I think, less than 400 acres. We did find Henry's house. So as soon as we knew that Henry's house, where it was, which is over there about 200 yards, I authorized a full-blown archaeological dig. We had Jay Custer, a professor of archaeology at the University of Delaware, came down, brought a crew during the summer, and panned for gold. They dug the whole site up. They found, I can show you an exact floor plan of Henry Coursey's house. The fact that it had a second story, which was unheard of. We found his trash pile. There are 900 boxes of artifacts, pipe stems, broken teeth, bits of bottle that tell the story of Henry Coursey's life. He was a fascinating individual, and we developed the golf course around Jay and his team. We were building golf course around him while he could finish the dig and get all the important artifacts out of the ground.
Well, we had never played golf as a family. We knew nothing about golf, and so we built this golf course. I remember my mother coming down when we were clearing, which involved massive piles of burning material, sobbing and looking at my father saying, "What have you done to the farm?" And I'm not quite sure at one point that we didn't question what we were doing. But in any event, we opened Queenstown the same day that the last traffic light between the Washington, D.C. Beltway and Queenstown was removed in the Reach the Beach program. And so it went from 2.5 hours of heavy traffic to get there to 45 minutes of no traffic. And we had no idea. Again, we'd rather be lucky than smart.
We're very old, we've been around, we know the area. We don't go to Florida to do real estate, we do it here. And we're able to evolve and adapt. And that's the current makeup of the company is very responsible for that.
The assets of the brick company have changed tremendously. If you want to go back to 1892 to the present, as I'm sure it is with any company that's reached the century mark, the resemblance to where it started is almost unrecognizable. And I think it's certainly the same here. From a company that brought clay material up the Potomac River on tugboats to a manufacturer of brick to husbanding essentially unreclaimed land along the banks of the Potomac River where my grandfather and dad negotiated a variety of deals with tenants such as Yates Steakhouse and so forth and so on. Under my watch, we've sold those interests in those companies and recycled the capital that we got out of that into a variety of real estate-based enterprises. And that would include golf courses, marinas, office buildings, a shopping center. We had a significant interest in a large hotel in Crystal City, and that was contributed into a company called Ashford Hospitality out of Dallas, Texas. We still have a significant holdings in Ashford Hospitality. So there's a wide variety and diversity of interests that we have. So what we own, we operate, and that puts sort of a unique flavor on how we do things. So we like to look at the real estate that we own and operate and the businesses that we have as family enterprises. The reality of it is that the company's become much larger than a family business in the context I think most people would think of that. But we like to think that we still hold that you get that feel when you walk into one of our businesses or one of our assets or one of our places as we think of them.
When I think about the big picture with the brick company, I think our greatest asset is our people. We have some wonderful people. Betty White recently retired. She'd been with me and with the company for 40-some years, I think. I think if you talk to our employees, you'll find that they feel that they're treated as though they were important, and they are. And we want them to get that feeling.
I've loved being part of this wonderful company because it was all about the family. And the family, to me, is what has kept everything together.
Well, here at the brick companies, buildings are just bricks and mortar. So what really makes the company run are the people that work here. And they tolerate me and let me come in from time to time, but I'm not sure anybody really noticed if I wasn't here. In terms of what we look for, it's really more the type of person than what the person does. It's relatively easy to teach somebody to do a task or to do a job, but it's much more difficult to teach somebody to be a certain type of person. That was one of the reasons that we built this building, the Brick Company Center, was to create a place where people would feel comfortable and would want to go. I mean, we all have to spend probably more time at work than we do with our loved ones and with our families. So it doesn't make sense to me that those times spent away from home should be, well, maybe we can't make them as enjoyable, or maybe they're more enjoyable for some people depending on what's going on at home at that time. But it should be a place where you can be responsible. So we don't really have any posted hours. You can come and go when you please, where you can live relatively close to where you work. In order to achieve the values, those things that we hold dearest in this company, I think there are a number of different ways that we've gone about doing that. Perhaps the most important is to find people that have the same values to begin with, and then providing an atmosphere in which they can explore and use those values in their own ways, and reinforcing and recognizing when those things occur. So I try to write a personal note, for example, to somebody who does something that's consistent with the way that the company believes its employees should behave. And so it's recognition, it's reinforcement, those sorts of things on top of having the right people. My dad told me many years ago that making money would become a little stale after a while. And there were other things that I would probably most likely find that had more meaning than just making more money. As he would say, you can only drink so many beers in a day. And it's pretty much true. So one place to start is to think about what your passion is. And then the opportunity for our company, which has been so fortunate for so long, to give back to the communities in which we do business. So those two things over the last decade or so have taken on a whole new relevance and importance, and I think are important for the sustainability of the company as well.
In its environmental quest, the Brick Company understands the value of sustainability, and that's one of the paramount reasons why we have to respect the planet, because we want there to be a planet that'll sustain life when we're all gone.
And through all the sailing and all the time that I've spent outdoors, which is really my true love, the preservation of the environment was a natural one. The company's dedication to environmental principles has had a huge effect from a variety of perspectives. One is in the way that it attracts a certain type of person to us, values. Another one is our position as a real estate company with respect to regulators and government. So we've been able to, through our dedication to environmental principles, we've been able to affect legislation in ways that other developers might not think in the short term were beneficial, but we believe that if we're all going to survive on the planet together, we try to take a long-term view.
The Brick Company's foundation was a natural outgrowth of our giving policies. We would give to the Queenstown Fire Department and other charities without really thinking strategically about the gift. The idea of giving any amount of money, $10,000 to the fire department, etc., without wanting to wear the white hat, as I like to say, without wanting to get the attaboy, it was better to do something strategically where you could get a little benefit out of it. We didn't want to give the money away, we wanted to figure out a way to raise the money. So I had the big idea, let's formalize the giving process, let's give ourselves a name, the Brick Company's Foundation, apply for official status, and then have, a golf tournament in order to raise money to give away.
So we've gone from a golf tournament where we raise as much money as we can and then donate that to communities in which we do business, certain things that are relevant not necessarily to me, but we like to try to tie into what's of interest to the communities that we do business in and internally to the people that make this company work. And most recently we've done a strategic planning effort, and we're committed to taking 1% of the company's net profits and using that as the foundation to grow our endowment for the foundation and also to contribute that to causes that are relevant to the communities in which we do business.
The lessons I've learned in life and would like to pass on to my sons, you have to have integrity and have to be a square shooter. People have got to be able to trust your word. And I think that's the most important ingredient for a successful career in business and in life.
I think any organization has certain mores and principles that it believes, whether it's religious or otherwise. And so the company's success, in no small part, is built on and will be more and more built on values as opposed to material principles. And I think those are the things that will carry us forward into the future.
I would absolutely say that my father has had the greatest influence on my life. I realized when I was in 6th grade that my goal was to work with my father. It was my lifelong dream, and I didn't know it would come true, and for 19 years we worked hand in hand together and went to all the hearings and all the meetings. And there are a great many silly stories that I could tell about those days, and I'll cherish them forever. But the lessons that I learned from my father are the ones that most of us already know. Treat your peers with respect, pay your bills, and try to bring a little joy into everyone's life. If you ride in an elevator with my father, you'll get out of the elevator having heard a good joke, a good clean joke, just like Red Skelton would tell. He'll pull a coin out of your ear, or he'll charm a child in a restaurant. Sometimes it's a little funny because we've all seen these jokes so many times, but it's pretty darn endearing.
I still enjoy sailing, and I take pleasure in having taught all 3 boys to sail. When I think about sailing and running a company, there are some enormous similarities.
A company's course is really no different from a yacht's course. There have been many times when I've set out for an objective on a boat, and that objective has significantly changed. It's based on the environment, it's based on the weather, and as we all know, weather is an imperfect, as most things are in life, is an imperfect science, so it's constantly evolving. So it's important to constantly to assess and reassess and reassess the conditions that are around you as you try to find your way towards your objective. So there's many nights on a sailboat when we're headed for Maine or Canada or someplace where we say, okay, here's where we're going to end up for the night, and then we may be 15 miles in a different place. But it's not so much where you end up that's important, it's that you end up at the right place based on the conditions of the time.
I think the values most important that will keep us performing and excelling are the ones that Dad started intuitively and that Lex maintains today, and that's respecting our staff, respecting our customers, and respecting the land and the actual property. So we try to maintain environmental practices, we try to support the community, try and do an honest job and sell something that people want to buy for a price that's the correct price, not too much. And I think if we can continue to practice respect for those 4 elements, that we will evolve and continue to be something that everyone who's associated with will continue to be proud of.
Lex proved that he had the wherewithal to make it happen, and Charlie founded a brick company foundation, which he ran for a while, and So we spread our good works in the community. It's pleasant to think that he learned some lessons from sailing that he has applied to the business of running a company. And small business is the heart of the economy in this country. And when you want to improve the economy, you turn to the small businesses and see where they can take you.
Really, your word is your bond, and the handshake that you put out needs to mean that you're truthful in what you say in all things. And the measure that I like to think about is, in terms of honesty and integrity, is what can I tell my daughters when I put them to bed at night? And if I can tell them about my whole day from the beginning to the end, then I think that I've lived up to, hopefully, to my dad's expectations and to his father's expectations. Every opportunity, every great opportunity I've had in my life has been provided by my dad. So I've not said that enough, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me and all the other folks. There are many, many people that Dad has touched in many, many places, whether it's been trips we've taken down the inland waterway. Boy, we've had some times. Whether it's been those trips or pulling quarters out of pretty girls' ears in the chocolate factory in downtown Washington, or foam balls, or whatever it might be, or telling a joke to make somebody's day better than it would have been otherwise. So Dad's had a profound effect on so many people in so many ways, and I'm just thankful to have had the opportunity to be a part of all that, and I love you. If the brick company is fortunate enough to last another 80 years, which would be a total of 200 years of being in business, it will be very interesting it's very interesting to think about what it will look like. And I think that my travels on boats around the world, and most recently I was lucky enough to sail around Cape Horn, which is the southernmost cape in the world and renowned for its weather. And I looked across the straits towards Antarctica, and not only did I start to cry, but I really started to think about the vastness of our planet and the importance of our planet in our future. So wouldn't it be wonderful if the company could offset in its totality its impact on our world in a way that preserved large, significant chunks of the earth in a way that would allow future generations to really understand the importance of that.
I just hope that it stays manageable and doesn't become a big organization where the family has been forgotten. And because that was the foundation that brought the wealth to this company. Everything that is there today would not be there had it not been for the forefathers. So we can't forget that we're still a family company.
It's hard to imagine where the brick companies will be in 50 years. We've come so far in our first 120 years. We made bricks and terracotta sewer pipe that is no longer even to be found. I mean, all of those original government buildings have burned down and been pushed into the swamp. And now we are a commercial real estate company that owns and manages golf courses. I don't know where we will be in 50 years, but I think the innovation that exists at the company that has allowed us to evolve and be a local concern for real estate, and the company manages its properties efficiently. It thinks about the future, the economy, the trends, growth, technology, and people, and tries to figure out what's appropriate and what makes sense. We're not going to start a chemical company or a smelting company, but it may or may not be golf. It may be a resort. It may be something that you and I can't think of today. But I think we will continue to innovate and try to remain an honest company that does a good job and is proud of the product that it supports.
I think one of the things that I'm the most excited about for the brick company's future is not so much the business opportunities that the company has, but really more providing opportunity for the people that are here. And there's only so much that you can get out of another acquisition or another building, and those sorts of things are fun while they last, but they have a beginning and a middle and an end. But what's continuous is providing an environment and opportunities for people to grow, to change, watching their families benefit from the hard work that we do here, and then contributing to our communities and the environment as our mission statement talks about, in ways that will carry forward over much longer periods of time. So in the context of the brick company, I would say where we're headed is to the horizon, or maybe just over the horizon. And it's constantly unfolding, it's constantly changing. What's between you and the horizon is constantly different. And so that allows you to be somewhat opportunity driven, but always having a focus, where's the sun going to come up? And typically, when that first limb of the sun comes over the horizon in the morning and you've been on watch all night and the warmth of the sun touches you in your face, that's an incredible feeling. We want that objective to occur over and over and over again, to feel that warmth touch you on the face. So there's certain consistent givens that go along with that, the beliefs of the company and the manner in which we do business, but the specifics of what that is, I think, are constantly evolving.
Ave atque vale. Hail and farewell. I'm going to sing you a song that I wrote about one of our great heroes, John Glenn. One of the bravest of all men, grew from a baby named John Glenn. When John was little, he said to his dad, I want to be a pilot, awful bad. Now I've got to ask you all to help me with the chorus. It goes like this. Whoosh, there he goes. Will he come back? Well, nobody knows. Whoosh, there he goes. Will he come back? Nobody knows. 3 times around the world he sped. Will he come back live? Will he come back dead? Will he come back at all? This pleasant land, the Marine has landed. Situation's at hand. Whoosh! There he goes. Will he come back? Nobody knows. Whoosh! There he goes. Will he come back? Nobody knows.